Hello and welcome to Developers After Dark, episode number 27. We are here today with a very awesome guest. But before we get into that, let me first say if you are watching or you are listening, please make sure to click like and click subscribe and share this with all of your friends. We value everybody as listeners, and the more people we can get to listen, obviously, the better, because we're here to tell stories. We're here to learn more about not only HubSpotters, but others in the ecosystem, and even people who are HubSpot adjacent. So,
Yeah,
and even developer adjacent as well.
From grandparents to toddlers, I believe is the range, right?
That's our demographic. That's our key demographic right there.
Exactly.
Everyone. So, but don't just click subscribe when you're watching this or you're listening. Don't just click subscribe for us, especially on YouTube. We want you to also be able to click subscribe for everybody else that's on the HubSpot Developers YouTube channel. It's not just our show there, but there are plenty of people from Brooke to Hannah to other people in developer relations as well, giving not just shows like this, but there's also developer updates. You have monthly updates. You have all kinds of master classes and all kinds of courses to learn tons of stuff, not just from us, but other people as well in the developer community. So that's going to be a resource that you're going to want to always be there. And again, when you're there, please click like, subscribe, share everything. We would appreciate it. But that's not the only place that you're going to be able to go to kind of know what's going on in HubSpot. You can also go to the changelog, which is going to be found at developers.hubspot.com/changelog. Now, you're going to want to be there because you're going to want to stay current with the latest changes and updates happening that affect HubSpot developers. So again, that's developers.hubspot.com/changelog. And then finally, if you haven't been there already, you really, really should. And I was just kind of looking at the homepage here just to kind of see what some of the more popular ones are. But you have the HubSpot Academy, right? And that's at academy.hubspot.com. And what you have is you have a globally recognized certification powerhouse, essentially. Because, I'm just looking at the homepage now and some of the popular ones that, they change from time to time. But you have social media marketing, you have digital marketing, inbound marketing. Everything, SEO, sales. There is not a thing you can't find here that you can't learn about. So, and the lessons are great. The format is fantastic. And again, some of these are certified, so you get certifications that, again, they're globally recognized. So, and take advantage of that because it doesn't cost anything. I was talking with AJ. I remember we mentioned this probably in another episode, but I was talking with AJ and we were talking with a friend of ours who's also a developer. And they thought that this was something you had to pay for. He's like, oh yeah, I was going to check that out, but I didn't, it wasn't something I was going to pay for right now. And we said, well, that's good because you don't have to. So it was one of those things where, yeah, you should check this. It's a resource that, it's hard to pass up when it's free. And it's also hard to pass up when it's really, really relevant and useful. So,
if they want to send a check to me, I'll take it. Not a big deal.
Dennis's Venmo. Let me click that. Hold on. Let me bring that up. And but here today, we have a really, really great episode because we're going to be talking with someone who I know AJ and Dennis know very, very well. I've just gotten to meet, and your story so far that when we've talked about has been a lot of relevancy there. I've kind of learned the same way you have. But without further ado, I'm going to let them introduce themselves. So Parag, why don't you tell everyone who you are and what you do?
Yeah, thanks, Nick. So, I've been in the HubSpot ecosystem since 2014. We actually created the first Shopify to HubSpot integration. Of course, we added other shopping carts as well. But what we really found is that you want to enable HubSpot for e-commerce, and there's a really big gap there. Not enough people, even though we got all this amazing data into HubSpot, the gap is that people don't use that data. And how can they personalize the experience of their end customers for CRM, and then for sales? How do we make the job easier for salespeople and using that e-commerce data to sell? And then finally for service, right? How do we make sure that the customers that are coming to us, we're providing as much help as possible? And HubSpot has a big surface area on how to help e-commerce businesses and continues to add more surface area. So as an integrator, we want to make it as simple as possible to run e-commerce through HubSpot. So that's what we've been focusing on last 10 years and slowly learning and progressing with HubSpot as HubSpot adds features. So that's what I like about it, because it's constantly new features coming out, and we get to kind of stay on the cutting edge of everything. So
Indeed.
right now it's AI, but
yeah.
Now,
2014, we had like what? How many objects were there in 2014? It was like under 6. I feel like it was not many.
Yeah.
Now we have limitless.
Yeah, there's only contacts object
Yeah.
really, and a couple other ones, but the deal object didn't exist, the product object didn't exist, so we had to make do. And but we've seen a lot of new functionality, new objects being added, and we can do a lot more. HubSpot gotten so much more powerful than back then.
For sure.
Now, for those listening and watching, you're with Unific. Can you tell us people a little bit about Unific, that people maybe if they haven't heard of it before?
Yeah, for sure. So like I said, the gap is that most companies that use HubSpot don't really know how to market for e-commerce, how to use HubSpot for CRM. And so what Unific does is personalizes that experience at scale. So, for 100 customers, you can call them, you can personalize that experience, make it a great experience over time. But we need to use automation when there are hundreds of thousands of customers, and they're constantly sending us new orders, placing new orders. There are customers who are going to churn, right? We want to detect who's going to churn and then try to save them. HubSpot has these amazing tools to reach out to the customer, but doesn't necessarily have the data and the events necessary from the shopping carts. So Unific has focused on that and gone deeper into that. And as a team, we're about a team of 10 people. Over the years, we've been trying to figure out, well, what are we, right? Because we're more than integration, but we're not HubSpot directly, right? We're also not quite HubSpot. And so we've kind of come to the idea of like, okay, we're really customer experience management at scale and using HubSpot to deliver the messaging and all the value, but we're enabling our customers, mutual customers, to launch and grow their e-commerce business in a sales way as well as through marketing.
Can you be more specific when you say customer experience? Because when I think e-commerce, I'm thinking two sets of customers for you, right? You have the users of HubSpot, and then you have the purchasers of whatever e-commerce product it might be. Are you talking overall or specifically one of those two?
I suppose I'm talking about both.
Yeah.
So customer experience in the sense of end customers, right? So people that buy, they need cultivation. We need to cultivate the customer experience, that relationship, right? We need to do it. Of course, like I said, for 100 people, we can easily do it. We can just call them, right, if something's wrong. But if it's 100,000, we're going to have to use automation to cultivate the relationship over time. So now, if somebody has, spent the perfect example I use during sales is like if somebody has abandoned a cart, right? And as a CRM, HubSpot CRM has a lot of data about that person, their previous purchase history and all of that. Plus, what pages did they visit and all that, right? But we can, through HubSpot workflow or automation, we can say, okay, this person has bought this many times before, so they're a high-value customer, and this other person who's also abandoning, they're a low-value customer. So let's give that. We want to encourage the second order or third order if they're a low-value customer, fairly new. So let's provide an automated discount, right? So we send a discount code to them via email. So we actually create it in the store, and then our technology will create it in the store and then push it into HubSpot so that you can send it via email or SMS. But the high-value customer, they don't need a coupon, right? We know they're going to buy. They've come back. Last Mother's Day, they used the discount code. HubSpot can capture that information. So now this year, we shouldn't send the discount code because their mom liked the product, right? They like the So in that sense, we're helping that personalize that experience using all the data in HubSpot and all the data in the shopping cart and making it super simple for the HubSpot user. So now I'm talking about the experience of the HubSpot user to launch these campaigns and workflows. Another example of that would be sales, right? So today, if a sales rep, say right now there's a change happening in e-commerce, right? So because of COVID, we had companies who that are B2B sales, so salespeople couldn't work face to face. So there are companies that are already online and doing a great job online, like Grainger, for example, which is kind of a plumbing supply company. So for them, they're already online, they're already doing a great job, so they actually saw a boost. But those companies that are supply companies that needed a face-to-face conversation didn't do so well, right? And so they realized we're going to have to get online as quickly as possible and try to, not get into that situation again.
Right.
So that's one trend, and we're seeing more and more companies do that. But the second trend is all these like B2C e-commerce companies, they hit their TAM during COVID, right? They got as big as they could. And so to find new business, new prospects, they had to go into wholesale. And so HubSpot really fits well into both of these categories, like because B2B, and they're also they have the sales hub integrated with HubSpot at the CRM, marketing hub also there, and service hub. So if we can make the expense of sales reps to create orders, draft orders, or quotes in their shopping cart without having to leave HubSpot, then that's improving their experience. They get to stay and live in HubSpot and avoid having to go to the shopping cart as much as they can. Sometimes you'll have to, but the shopping cart store owners don't really want salespeople in their shopping cart either, because like now anybody can give a discount and there's less control. Whereas if you keep them in HubSpot, we control what they see and are able to access. So some of the tools that Unifix has been building is around that.
How did you get to that point? Like, how did you make that discovery? Like, what was your process here? Because I mean, that's a big change, right? It's a huge user change.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So during actually a little bit right after COVID, we saw some companies ask, because we already had the Shopify and other shopping carts integration into HubSpot, a strong one that worked really well. But those companies who were already coming to us, they're like, well, we're trying to add a wholesale channel, or we're trying to add a B2B channel to our business, and we really want to use HubSpot's coding tools for that, but it doesn't really work well with the store. So can you help us? So we kind of dug into that and understood, like, okay, this is the real scenario here is they kept using the word salespeople want to live in HubSpot. They don't want to go to the store. And so we said, well, how can we achieve that? So we started just made an MVP, invest as little as possible, because we didn't know how big this would be. If we spend thousands of dollars on this thing and launch it, nobody uses, then we've kind of wasted time. So we just took what we had, we built on top, and even though it wasn't like the perfect way to do it, we got it done, and so we're able to get validation over the years for that.
Really cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. Let me ask you this now, going from because I know there's a couple other people that we've talked to that are kind of from the CEO level, are moving to the CEO level from before. Has there been a big change because like a lot of the stuff you're describing, like from the ground floor, right? You're working on some of these things and you're making some of these changes and you're doing a lot of this testing and you're trying to, come up with the solution. And I imagine there's a different kind of perspective or a different way of having to tackle these things when you're at the CEO level versus previous. Was there how hard was it to make that kind of jump?
Yeah, it was challenging because the way we started the business, it was just me and my business partner. So he was handling the sales and marketing side of things, and I was handling the technology. And actually, we never set out to do this thing. What happened is we actually knew each other from college. His name's Dan. And Dan and I knew each other from college at Ohio State, and we would work on some entrepreneurial things separately, me and him, at Ohio State. But then after that, my goal is always to have build a business, a SaaS company actually. But I realized that, and my professor gave me this advice. He said, learn on somebody else's dime, right? You don't have to start right away. You don't go from college to your own business. Right. At the time I was freelancing, so I was making websites anyway. So I was like, okay, I could just continue that. But he told me that if you at least for 3 years, work at an actual software company, because you get to know like what to do, what not to do, how to work on a team, right? Because if you're just starting alone, you're alone and you don't know how to work on a team. So I took that approach. My personality is actually like very conservative, and we had come from India when I was 9 to Canada, and then I went to high school here in the U.S. In Ohio, Worcester, Ohio, and so we didn't have a lot of money. So For me to start a new company without kind of at least some savings would have been very risky. So I said, okay, that's a good idea. Let's do a job first. And that job really helped me a lot because I got to learn what not to do, what to do, and how to run like a software company, and not like at the leadership level, but like how to work in a software company.
For sure.
And so,
how big of a team was it?
So that company was around 80 people, 80, 90 when I first started there. And the development team was like 6 or 7 people.
Yeah, that seems like a good size to get started. I mean, like much bigger, it could be overwhelming. Much smaller, like I know Nick and myself both kind of came from the whole self-taught world where you work alone. You are the entire team. You're the team of 20, right? And
there's
you
some
make it up as
advantages.
you go.
Yeah. No, there's some advantages, but I think being able to I'm trying to think of the right way to put it, but like the small team environment versus like when you come to HubSpot where there's like concrete sectioned out departments and team, like there is such a learning curve there that I think being able to have experience in both is obviously beneficial, but it's a different world, going into like something like HubSpot or just a bigger, like even at the 80-90 person level, there's still like a different mindset and like procedurals that you have to kind of go through.
Right.
But
there's so many, I would say
ahead.
like there's so many like things that save you, like in a larger company, like pushing to production, like there's so many checks and balances there. In a smaller organization, there aren't, right? Many of them are, even though we have GitHub and all that, but before it wasn't the case, wasn't part of the culture. So
no, like I always say this. I think I said this before, Nick. Like early on in my development career, I was doing some freelance work and I was going to work with this other guy. I said, where are you committing your code? I said, what are you talking about? I had no idea you could even do that. It's like, it's because I've only done it by myself and it was self-taught.
Parag, when I first started working, there was no test servers. I was working live straight on and making changes and it was the most terrifying thing in the world, but it was like, that's what was there. So it was like, but it's a different, I like the way that's phrased, that there's more, like when you get to that level with more people, there are more like those checks and everything really do. It's not just like saves you from making mistakes, but it also kind of teaches you this whole process of, because there's more, like, again, like Den was saying, when there's one or two people, like being considerate of the other teams around you and how what you do may affect them doesn't really play into that equation at all, versus when you start to get to those bigger and bigger teams and like departments. And now, so there's definitely something to be said about both, but I think having a little bit of experience in both kind of gives you that mindset of like, remember, it's not always like that. You're going to have to consider. So there's
but like, I mean, I feel like Parag, maybe it was safer for you to make mistakes and be able to learn from them. Whereas Nick, when you're committing to your production server, there's no learning there. That's all.
You're literally are coding like this the whole time with your fingers crossed, just like, oh, come on.
Just rush. I would say that if you're too conservative, then it can slow you down too. So
that's a good point. Very good point.
You have to have a balance and know what the balance is, and depending on the company goals too, right? So if you're in a startup, like, so we were a startup when we began, right? Like just me and Dan, and I was coding. And he was doing the selling of it, finding customers. I was continuously asked for new.
I feel like Parag just. Are you getting anything?
I thought I froze. Okay.
Yeah, Parag, you froze there, my friend. I'll cut this out later on. We'll start over.
We'll cut it. Yeah, we'll cut it.
Start back from like you, Dan. I think is the last thing I kind of heard you say.
Okay. Yeah, so me and Dan were, working together, just two of us, and I was coding, and I had a full-time job, and he had a full-time job too. So we had to do this nights and weekends. So I was coding, and he was trying to find leads and sell, but we would keep learning of like, oh, this customer wants this customer wants that. So then you have to actually deliver quickly. If you take too long, that customer's going to move on. So
that's true. That's a good point.
Right.
So you end up in the beginning, creating. Not a mess, but you try to do the best you can.
Right. No, totally makes sense. That's two questions. One is, how did you get started? Like you said, this was accidental almost, right? Like that you began this company.
So,
How'd that happen?
So my business partner Dan wanted to launch an e-commerce store, and he launched. Actually, what happened is he came to my wedding, and my wedding's in India, and so he went there with him and his wife, but they also bought some jewelry back, like not like gold jewelry, but jewelry you can sell online. So they had a unique set of products, right? Because they stopped in some places to get that. So then it's like, let's sell this online. So then he launched a Magento store. And then his background is marketing. So he's like, well, I can launch a store, but I can't really do email marketing with this. With Magento by itself, we can't do that. And so he had me integrate with Infusionsoft, which is a really popular CRM marketing automation platform back then. And so I initially built that integration for him. And so then he set his Infusionsoft account so well that internal Infusionsoft people said, hey, you should actually be a consultant because you're so good at marketing and you set everything up right. So then he said, yeah, sure, I'll do that. And then so we built the integration for him, but then we realized, there's like thousands of e-commerce companies who also need the exact same thing. Because e-commerce stores by themselves are not so good at marketing. Just now they're starting to add more email, like any email. But back then you wouldn't be able to send any emails through the store other than just like the order confirmation emails. So not like event cards and stuff. So we determined like, okay, let's partner on this, because like initially we were just going to say we're going to have our own company. So Maya had the freelancing company and he was working full time. So we said, okay, let's just do it on our own. And then we basically for the first year we end up increasing the recurring revenue so much that we could actually go full time. So we said like just combine now, just become partners, and then just keep it going as much as we can.
Yeah. Are your personalities different? I mean, you're the conservative? Is he more of the outgoing? I'm just out of curiosity.
Yeah, absolutely. He's more outgoing and more sales oriented.
I can see that.
He's really good at that. Yeah.
So my follow-up question was like, I feel like I can be somewhat conservative to an extent and sometimes not, but in the sense of like starting my own company, I don't know. It's jumping off that cliff and actually going full time at it. That's not a conservative thing to do.
That's scary.
Yeah, I guess I had, we had some revenue coming in. We didn't take a full salary for a long time, like 6-7 years. So like we're almost on the college salary for 6-7 years, both of us.
What year are we at right now?
That was like 2014.
Gotcha.
And so actually 2013, and then we finally incorporated 2014. So we ended up adding HubSpot as well in 2014 because we saw that focusing on just a single platform is kind of scary, and anything could change, right? And then we liked HubSpot because we saw that there's a future there. It's going to grow, and make the APIs, for example, APIs were much better even back then. HubSpot APIs were some of the best out there, whereas like the Infusionsoft, those APIs were not too good. So and so then. We actually, the same thing happened to Dan. He has set up HubSpot so well that they said, hey, you guys should be a HubSpot partner.
Interesting.
Right.
So
that's awesome.
So we became a partner. So we were one of the first 20 apps in the HubSpot App Store.
What? Wow, I didn't know that. Yeah. That's really cool. Nice. May I ask, I'm sorry, Nick, I'm going to stop talking because once again, per usual, I over the
honestly, Dennis, one of the questions I had was like, what was the thing that sparked deciding that, like, what is always, because the question I always like to ask people, like, especially when they're, a CEO or co-founder, is like, there has to have been a moment where you were like, I see problem, I have solution. Oh, how do I let's do this? And that, and I think I think the way it worked for you, Parag, is that is like I don't think you could ask for it to happen any better way, right? Because it's like and plus you also had the knowledge and you also had the experience to say, well, I have a thing that I already know what to do, because there's people that think like in perspective of, okay, well, there's a problem there. I think I could create a solution for this, where you were like, I have the solution for this. I know what it is. All we have to do is combine forces, because, and I think it's great too, to be able to find that kind of co-founder that, we're like, especially, like Dennis said, like you said, Dennis, you're more on I would be someone who would just jump and be like, let's just do this. Like, all right, let's without, like, that where Dennis is more of like, well, have we planned these things? And then it's like, once
Yeah.
you bring those two people together, it's like, we have something here. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like, no, I completely respect that. But no, that was definitely going to be one of the questions I wanted to ask. But no, I think that
it wasn't a sudden change either. So I was working full time. Like I said, my goal was like in 3 years do my own business. So I was actually freelancing that entire 3 years. So I'm learning how to, do business, how to do sales, how to do invoicing, all that stuff. And then once I said, okay, 3 years has passed, and now I'm going to go full time freelance. So I already had a gig lined up for that.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So then I was already freelancing and kind of surviving basically. And I was always looking for a product to build, and kind of it happened. So
Yeah.
I didn't plan it, but I did. So it wasn't such a big leap to then take the risk and go full time with the product.
I was wondering, from the beginning to now, how has your mission statement changed? Are you trying to do the same thing, or is it? I mean, has it augmented? I'm sure it's changed, evolved over time.
I think the overall theme has been the same, but we've had to figure out what we're doing because initially it was integrations. Then we realized there's a gap in the market that there's no like e-commerce specific marketing automation platform that is a winner, right? HubSpot is general, Infusionsoft that's general. So we're like, there's a gap here. Let's capitalize on that. So then in 2016 we raised money, some money from investors to actually build an e-commerce marketing automation platform. And so we had a lot of ideas there already from our experience, doing it for HubSpot and Infusionsoft and what companies needed. Unfortunately, during that, it took us like almost 18 months to raise enough capital. We won like a couple of prizes too, like business plan competition. So it took some time. In Ohio, it's like a little bit harder to get there. Well, in that time, other companies had already raised and like actually gone much faster and were bigger then. So in hindsight, though, hindsight is always 2020. We should have just continued. But we said, let's go back to what we were doing. We have a core customer base here in HubSpot and Infusionsoft. Let's keep trying to serve them. And so we changed direction. We used the money to build what Unifix today. So we actually had to rebuild the entire thing from scratch. So remember we discussed earlier, we had to move quickly. We had to kind of take some risks and do it quickly. But what happened is over time, each release would get harder and harder to do. Because so many people are relying on your integration, and it's a live sync, which means that even down for a few hours, people are unhappy, right? So you can't risk that. So I had to, at that point in time, I was the CTO, right? So but I should have been the manager and not doing any coding, but I was doing a lot of the coding, and I was also in charge of releases. So I'd be doing the merge conflicts, and we were doing branching at the time. So managing all of that, and each release would take 2 days, then 3 days, then 5 days. It just became worse and worse and worse. And so then what I learned there is if we raise the money, we're going to have to re-architect this entire thing because we needed to be able to scale. We were scaling pretty good with what we had. And again, hindsight 2020, we should have actually, if we make it a few tweaks, we could have kept doing that. But we just have to rewrite it from scratch. Now I'm thankful we did that, but it's still what could have been, right?
Yeah, of course. So how did you pull the Band-Aid? When did you say, okay, from scratch, let's do it? How did you?
After we raised the money, we're like, well, we need to build a strong foundation for what our vision is. So let's start there because so we just said, okay, we're gonna keep Revenue Conduit. So our previous company was Revenue Conduit. That was the app we built, and then we said we're gonna actually write it. That was written in PHP because that's what experience I had most. And PHP at that time wasn't so good at TDD and classes, and it wasn't that well an object-oriented platform. So or language, but so we said let's do Java for what we raised the money for, right? So we're going to rewrite all in Java. So we rewrote all of it. And this time I was like, okay, at that point in time, I had to trust the team anyway. I wasn't doing that much coding on Revenue Conduit. So I said, for this, I'm going to be only the product manager and the CTO. I'm not going to be coding anything. And that was good because we could move faster then.
Right.
Was it?
You stopped coding because? Oh, no, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, was it hard to break away from that? Because I know, like, building it, being the coder,
baby.
building a lot of it. Yeah, it's hard to say like, okay, I'm just going to step away and trust whoever it is with what I've built, and it should all just be fine. And I'm just going to walk, I'm going to turn and do this over here, and not, how hard was that? Because I know.
Well, I had to admit to myself, like, look, we're hiring really smart people, right? So we raised the money, and we tried to find the best people we absolutely could in this Akron area where we are, and finding them can be difficult. You got to trust these new people coming in. Luckily, one of them was Brett, actually my friend from high school, who I had brought on for the previous company where I worked for 3 years. So I brought him on. In that company, and he did really well. And he was, by the time we started Unific, or ready to raise the money, it's already 6 or 7 years since he's been there. So I said, hey, Brett, you want to come work with me? So I already knew like he could be trusted and do a great job. And then we had hired a lead architect as well. He had like 15 years, I think at the time, 15 years of experience. So I was like, there's no way I'm going to be better than these guys. So. And at that point in time, and I was my passion is also design and product management, so user experience design as well. So I was doing that part of it because like we couldn't just hire. We knew the vision we wanted to create, so I built that myself. I designed it myself, and then that kept me too busy to be able to do the coding as well. So I was already busy, and it wasn't such a big change.
So basically, you were forced to make this change, right? You're just
I still miss it though. So what I do is like weekends I'll play play and build my own small like prototypes of like, hey, team, this is where we want to go. So let's build. I'll pre-build it, some of it, so that you have some code to work from, and I don't have to do a lot less work to explain it. Because explaining things verbally to developers is not always the easiest thing. Because like I say one thing and they understand something different. Now with the new AI coding tools like Cursor and all of that, Visual Studio Copilot. It's much easier. Like I can actually create a prototype much faster. And typically, like I'm using Figma right now to like actually design like the user experience, but some things can't be explained through that. It has to be like, the back end, because I'm a developer, so I know how in the back end we should design it so that it's scalable, and also that the newer developers can kind of understand my logic.
For sure.
That's awesome. Let me ask you this. I want to go into a little bit more about like you personally, like on how you kind of got started with all of this. Can you tell us what kind of sparked your interest in technology just at the, at the very onset of everything?
Yeah. So initially I had moved from India to Canada when I was 9. So it was a huge change. It was moving from Pune, which is where we're from, or just near Mumbai, a really hot region, to Newfoundland, Canada. So
did you get new clothes?
Yeah, new clothes, new everything. And so my dad was doing his PhD in Newfoundland. So that's why it was like a really random place. So that's where he got in. So it was a great city. But I had to go every weekend with him. Not had to go, like I just chose to go because like, there's nothing else to do. I didn't really have any friends because I was new. So he worked in, he had to do research for his PhD. And he's not in technology at all. He's entomologist. So I got there because they had computers there. I think Windows 3.1 was there. So they had a computer lab, and I was able to go in and like just try to find free games to play. I couldn't find any at the time. So then the best thing was like learning how to make paper airplanes. So there's like websites back then. It was a couple of websites on how to make paper airplanes. So I still do that, and so that became my hobby. But that was like the first like touch of technology, because in India we didn't really have any opportunity like that. And so fast forward like to I got my first computer was in high school. So when I was in grade 10. So then that's where I started tinkering. I was playing a couple of video games, and the clans. If you join a video game clan, right, they have like websites, and I thought, that'd be cool if I could make one. So I started designing. I got a cracked version of Photoshop, but also Flash, Micromedia Flash. So,
Dennis can put the legal disclaimer. We did. No, I did the same thing too. So it's not.
Yeah, we all did. Also, you said Flash, which makes me laugh. It's
well, it's like they got. I think those companies grew because like we were ready with those skills, and when you got to an organization, like, hey, I have these skills.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Right.
it's their free version.
Justify it. Go ahead and justify it, buddy. You justify it all day long.
Premium.
Yeah, I was looking at your response to Nick's question about that, and I saw Windows 3.1, and I had my heart like sunk a little. I haven't heard that in a long time. That's a dark time for me.
Right. Yeah, it's fun. Yeah.
So was trying to do the websites for because actually I did that. That's why when I was telling you earlier, reading some of this, it was like some of the same things. Like I think probably one of my first kind of dives into just HTML in general was like, I think it was like Call of Duty or something like that, or I think it might have been that, like one of the older versions of it, like way back, like building a website for like a gaming clan essentially. Like, was that your first kind of dive into HTML at that time?
Yeah, on that side, like, gaming websites back then, like, just filled with Flash. There are always animations and things like that. So I thought, okay, that would be cool. So let's see if I can do that. So I started building it, and I actually got through. There was like a lot of tutorials back then. So I got through and made it. But then what happened is like, okay, you have to actually load this thing. It's dial-up. We're on dial-up here. So we had to load these intros. So then I said, okay, and I had to make a preloader now, because that was the next tutorial on the list. So let's build a preloader. And so that's my first like kind of real coding action script, and try to figure that out on my own, just tutorials online, and then basically, but then using this experience, I then got a job in high school at a computer store, because like my dad was like, hey, you're doing this kind of stuff, it's kind of cool, like why don't you see if there's a job you can do? And one of our family friends, their son worked at a computer store in the previous year, so they took me to that one because there's a connection there. So then I interviewed with the owner of that store. His name is Thad, and he really saw what I could do with Flash, and then he's like, let's do this. So summer job, nice. I had I was the webmaster. So
wow.
Because there's like local stores that he did this website.
Did you get any experience in like hardware and computer hardware and any type of like building stuff within that? Or?
I did build actually, because of that, it was a computer repair store really, and they had a webmaster division. I was the first webmaster. So nice. And so then he's like, oh, you should build a computer, and so he helped me build my first computer. So I got it.
Does that happen anymore? I feel like that's an age that has gone away. I could be totally wrong, and like I don't know, but I don't know. Do y'all does this happen still? Do kids go out there and do this stuff?
I mean, I did. I'm trying to teach my son to do as well, as to build his own stuff and get out there and get hands on with it. Yeah, like I built one for him, and I made him watch, and I explained everything and made him like.
Good on you.
I was like, yeah, we'll put this together, but you got to answer the questions right. And I was like, okay, what is this part? What is this piece? What is that? So yeah, I try, but I mean, it's hard. Like nowadays, everything's very out of the box. Like, hey, buy this. It's. Like for especially like for my daughter, like when we were looking, because I did the same thing for her, but it was like, it's hard to like, oh, well, this one already is pink with, kitty ears and all this stuff. And it's like, you don't have to do anything. It's just buy. And I'm like, I really want you to know what goes into this, not just buy it and use it, So it's, I think it's slipping away, like that sort of, that knowledge transfer, but I'm trying to keep it alive.
So. I'm going.
I was going to ask you too, actually, during the when you were talking about building the websites in Flash and the complications just in that in general, and I picked this up in your story when you answered one of the questions. You also learned, and because I love SEO, you also learned an SEO lesson in there too as well, right?
Yeah. So I started working at this computer store, but Thad was like my boss. He's like, well, people need to be able to find these websites we're making. Right. So it's not just you're making a website for design. They need to actually get value from this, marketing value from this. So we had a vacuum store as a customer. We also had like a real estate builder as a customer, so they needed actual HTML websites. So I started. I kind of knew HTML before that because I actually mentioned in the same questions. I read a book on HTML on my we had a family trip to DC, and so didn't have any devices at that time, right? So you had books.
That's right, you did.
So luckily I had picked up a HTML book from the library. I don't know why, I just picked that one. So then I read that book the entire way to Washington D.C. and back. It was like a pretty thick book too. It was like, now I know like HTML is not all that, but it's pretty thick.
Man, come on. Yeah.
So then applied those skills at the computer store. Like, okay, let's learn this thing. And initially I was using a front page. You remember Microsoft front page to build a website. So like my career would have probably ended if I had to keep using that. Found Dreamweaver, Macromedia Dreamweaver. So I already know Macromedia Flash, so Dreamweaver I picked up, and then I showed that, hey, we should use this because it's so much faster and better. It's not still amazing because it's like it doesn't use standards-based HTML CSS, but back then, like, what were web standards, right? So so for you to there's like div CSS wasn't as useful or good. So to make layouts we use tables, HTML tables.
Yes, you did.
Right? You'd do different tricks, right? Like if you want to have a border for a table, you'd basically have to create the images, slice the images in Photoshop just right so that some of them will repeat, and then you get the rounded corners. So all of that was
brings back memories and nightmares at the same time.
So many.
Exactly. It was cool after you finished it, but the process was like, I found it fun. So
yeah. No, absolutely. No, I really admire that type of, like, random book pick, but still a good pick. Like to be able to go back and forth and just read that and be able to just apply. I think that's fantastic. I mean, I really, between being able to do that and then just being able to learn by breaking is one of those things where it's like, that's hard for some people to do, but I was telling you earlier before we started recording, it's that for me there, I would have chose, looking back, obviously hindsight being 2020, would have chose no better way to do it. So I admire that a lot with that.
Yeah, you get to go deep, right? You get to understand the thing behind the thing. So it's, I think, very useful even for in the future career, right? Like you have a solid foundation then, because if you try to skip, well, I guess now with AI you can skip. But if you try to skip, you kind of at the other end don't know what you're doing, or it's more difficult to like explain what you're doing to be able to fix the problem.
I'm on the side that says you still can't skip with AI. I mean, because you can definitely get some stuff out there, but it's going to be janky and not working if you don't know what's going on and able to direct AI in the correct direction.
Yeah.
You almost have to work a little bit backwards to make sure that you understand what just happened. Do you know what I mean? In order to it's all great when it comes out at the other end and you're like, yeah, this is kind of what I thought. This is what I needed. But then someone asks you, well, how does this all work? And then you kind of just shrug your shoulders and go, it just does. So
the way I've been playing with it. So what I found works best, and I haven't actually launched anything production ready with that code. So this disclaimer. But we want to get results, right? And I want enough results that I can show our development team, here's what I'm looking for. So what I do is I would still follow the rule of test first, right? So in software development, if you write the test first, then usually those tests save you. They're like scaffolding, right? So you can always come back and rerun. Anytime you're refactoring, right? If you have a good test base, you can always know where you are.
Listen to people, that's huge.
Yeah, and there's a Y Combinator video somebody posted on like how people are doing it there, and they suggested like test first. That rule still applies, and so first you write a document like, okay, here are the requirements that I want as a summary. Then you can say write the tests necessary for this particular feature first. I was trying to write some React stuff, so I actually did a component. I write a component here, and then write the test for the component as well. So doing that test first and then have the AI modify the code and then have the AI also modify the test to then match has gotten me better results than if you just kind of vibe coding.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I make sure that when I'm writing out the structure, every component has its own test every time component's complete, you do a build again to make sure you don't have any TypeScript errors or anything like that going with it, and then a commit.
Right.
I do have a question for you about this. Now, you are a CEO, so it would be safe to say that there are things that now you have to do as far as, let's say, events, conferences, things like that. Because I remember one of the questions we did ask you was about, recent events, and you said that now that you're the CEO, there's outside of just running things efficiently, there are other things now that you get to do and you get to go to. Any of them events, workshops, or things like that you've done recently that have stood out to you?
Yeah, so we obviously inbound, we're always there. So I don't think I've missed, except for the COVID ones, I haven't missed any since 2016, I think. Actually, I have a funny story about, I think 2017 or 2018. So that was back when we had Revenue Conduit, so the older code base. And back then there was I don't think there was a deals object. So if somebody bought something from their online store, we would have to put which products did they buy into the contact record on dropdowns. And dropdowns because it was harder to select. If you want to say like, I want to create a workflow based on what they bought, you'd have to select the exact text of that product if it was a single line text. But if it's a dropdown, you could select the dropdown like item. So that's why we use dropdowns. Well, we were actually migrating a customer from Infusionsoft to HubSpot, and the customer is like a high volume customer. So they had thousands of products. Well, when you're adding products to that dropdown, right, you have to have a list of options. Well, if you're doing anything at scale, you got to use multiple servers, right? You got to process. Well, if you have two servers trying to add the same product option to the product, like that dropdown, then you're gonna have race conditions. So you're gonna have a retry. And if you're adding thousands of products at once, that could also have race conditions and tons of retries. And since product spot is only a single field, right, that could happen. Well, we were at Inbound. We actually had a booth, and we were migrating this large customer from Infusionsoft to HubSpot, and we were importing all this data. We got a call from HubSpot. They're like, "Hey, whatever you're doing, stop, because the Ramesh is about to go on stage and he's presenting HubSpot live, and you're affecting this."
Shut up.
Oh, wow.
So we turned it all off.
Wow, that's like a ransom note. He's like, "No, you give me a little something, and I'll stop it."
Right.
Wow.
Literally like a main stage announcement. Parag broke Inbound, just so everyone knows.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
So then that's when like the conversation, I believe, okay, I'm not going to I don't know what happened internally with HubSpot, but we had a meeting with Nancy Riley, and said like, this is what we're trying to do. Like, here's mass data we're trying to put in here. Here's why customers need it in a drop-down field. So the idea that was born, at least a few months after that, was e-commerce bridge. So I can't take credit, but I had some part of it.
Rest in peace, though, right?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, how's your experience been with influencing the product since you started? I know you're an active voice and you're listened to. Do you feel like we respond to you in an appropriate way? Are we doing what you need?
Yeah, that's my favorite thing about HubSpot, because we are being listened to, right? There are other platforms out there that we integrate with that they don't care, They wouldn't give us the time of day. Whereas with HubSpot, like, we always get a good answer, even if it's like no, it's still at least a polite, no, and here's why. So every person I've interacted with HubSpot has been really great. Like Isaac Takushi,
Isaac's amazing.
Ramon Henry, right? Those people like that have been really helpful. And also people back then, I forget the names now, but I can't forget John McLaren, of course, and AJ. So yeah, it's been really helpful. I think we give the feedback, and we explain why, like, hey, we're experiencing this because we're kind of unique in that we have lots of apps. We have like 12 different apps, and we also have a lot of installs across them. So we kind of run into situations that not other companies don't run into. So one time we had some issue with the OAuth credentials. Like for some reason, cloud what's the I forget the name of the Cloudflare. Sorry,
Cloudflare. Yeah, sure.
There's like blocking our requests to refresh the tokens. Like what's happening? So Isaac really helped quickly.
That's
there.
amazing. That's great.
We got to refresh them every half hour, right? So
Yeah.
sorry, Nick, you had a question. I forgot the question you had, and I went into this whole thing about inbound. Oh, the events. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I interrupted the whole thing.
Sorry. No, that's okay. Are you going to be attending this year's out in San Francisco?
Yeah, we will be, of course.
Awesome. You know, there's 3 people on this call right now, and one of them's not going to be there. And,
oh no.
Yeah. Come on, Nick.
I've been asked, but like I don't know, flying. It's not that I don't fly. I don't like to fly. It's just
trains, planes, and automobiles, man.
Yeah, I know. Dennis keeps saying he's going to rent a Winnebago or something, and we're all going to drive down there.
So. Are you going to ride Melinda's horse?
Yeah. Yes.
Nice callback. I love that. Oh my god, yeah. That would be it would be something. I think it would be cool to do like a live spot from there. So that would be it would be cool. We'll see. I gotta look at some things first. Like fear of heights and other things as well. But let me ask you this though. On that same thread of being the CEO, is there a common myth about your job that you hear a lot and that you're just kind of like, that's not like that at all?
It's a difficult thing. So like, everybody thinks you know exactly what you're doing, all the time. But us being in this kind of technology environment, things are changing all the time. Like you have things coming at you, and you have to constantly adjust. And I think I learned from the agile methodology, right? That's really all it's about, being agile, right? Some particular card comes at you, and then you have to adjust. So we always want to build. We want to build so that always make in the future. So results in but that's what I've taken from development and technology to the CEO job, because like I wasn't always a CEO. I became CEO in 2021. My business partner unfortunately left. So then COVID and all of that, so it was just too much. So I took over and then had to kind of learn the CEO job on my own. And it's like constant imposter syndrome, right? Like even though you might be doing good, you kind of don't know what's up and down, right?
Yeah.
Like where are you swimming? And if I take this particular strategy in action, then what are the implications of that? And there's too many to count. And I'm gonna get doom scrolling in that way. I always think about the negative, but I have to constantly remind myself, like, you have to think positive, and if you are providing value to a customer, and that value is communicated and they know about it, then you'll always survive. So that I have to kind of fight against that imposter syndrome and say, like, we've survived this far. We've taken a lot of hits, and if we still haven't gone down, then I think we're doing great.
And you say you're 4 years in as CEO now? Is that where you're at?
Yeah, almost 4 years. Yeah.
And so as I asked earlier, Dan was the yin to your yang. Do you think you've accomplished like the merge? Are you both now? Are you the super CEO?
Yeah, I don't know about super CEO. He did a great job. He got us through like really some difficult points in time, and so I learned from that. That was helpful to me as well, because we were had to make the decisions together. So it was like I was included in everything. So also now I've learned more about, like I said, people, as long as you're providing a valuable service, people will buy. And you can give satisfaction to customers, and that's my goal. Like, can I satisfy their need? And if I do, then I can sleep well at night. If we are doing a bad job, of course, like when you have thousands of customers, like that's possible, and constantly possible, right? So we had to put the systems in place. So both mine and Dan's style has been to like just jump in and try to solve the problem, but now I had to learn to lean more on the team. So just like the transition I made from developer to CTO, where I had to like say, okay, team, I trust you. You guys need to do this. I had to do the same thing as the CEO too. So I had to hire want to make sure we trust them to do their job. So
was there like, I know when I went from my last job where I went from developer to management position, there was a moment where it's kind of like clicked. You know what I mean? Like you just like, oh, this is different. You know, I need to think about this in a different way. Did you have that kind of experience, or is that unique to me?
Yeah, when I initially did that developer to CTO role, like it had to click that way because the decisions I'm making, I'm trying to make for the team. Before that, I only had to make it for the app because it's just the two of us, and we added a couple of people since then. But we were, basically you want to leave. What's the Boy Scout saying? Like leave things better than the way you found them.
Yeah.
It's the same thing in management and leadership, right? So just that person before they came from a different place, they had a different style. You welcome them in, and then you also make sure that they're better when they leave you, right? That you can't keep some people forever. So if, as a leader, I have to make sure that everybody's getting better.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
Challenging themselves, I challenge them too, but making sure that they're motivated enough to survive on their own and be able to be independent. And if I can nurture them to do that and solve their own problem instead of me solving every time, then only then can they grow.
Right.
Otherwise, I'm a crutch.
Yeah, for sure.
I love that phrase. Yeah, that's a really good. Is there? I was going to ask you too. Is there any other types of because now I imagine maybe this is a two-part question, but the first part would be: is there any like pieces of advice like that, like mentorship advice like that you've been given that has kind of stuck with you and helped kind of shape the way you are? And then I guess the second part to that would be, do you, if you have one, is that something that you've passed down to other? Because now as the CEO, I imagine that there's a lot of people that look to you for that type of mentorship as well. Is there a piece of advice then that it might be the same thing, but is there a piece of advice that you give to your team and others that kind of help inspire them?
Yeah, I would say the same advice, right? Like we're hiring smart people, and if you're hiring smart people, they need to be able to make decisions, and we can make some kind of decision. It's not always the right decision. If they're in the front line, they're trying to do this, code something specific. My opinions are, just opinions, though. There's strong opinions, but weakly held. I think Jason Fried said that. There's just so many mentors now we can get online, but strong opinions, weakly held. I think that's helped us a lot because I'm a developer, so I could tell them exactly what to do and exactly how to fix this problem, but that's not the point. Like I need them to learn how to fix the problem and then find the way I think. I think Nicholas Holland actually gave me some great advice. I've met him a couple of times, it's always the question of like, where's HubSpot going? Like we want to know, because as integrators, like if you're going to do something, we don't want to do the same thing because like we're just stepping on those toes for no reason, and we want to make things better for our mutual customers, not build the exact same thing. So he said, well, here's how I think. Like I want to give you a way of how we think or how I think, so that you can answer these questions yourself rather than having to ask a HubSpotter each time, because they're not going to know. Another person I met is I think Andrew Lindsay. He used to be at HubSpot, isn't anymore. But he also said like there's so many things changing within HubSpot that I can't tell you the direction that we're going. There's no one person that can tell you the direction, and things are moving so quickly. So how do we apply that to our company, right? So I have to kind of give the team my model of thinking, and I have to get better at that. I'm not very good at that yet, and so if I make assumptions just like anybody, right, that they understood. So instead of that, we need a culture code. We need our model of thinking of how we should work with our clients, and how do we make them successful consistently? Because that's like a HubSpot. Like no matter who I talk to, the experience is consistent. No matter which individual I'm talking to. So I really need to learn how to do that. And I know that Ramesh has shared some of this himself with the culture code and the book, and the binder you guys had. So we kind of need to, as we scale, we have to do those kind of things too. When we were smaller, like 3 or 4 people, we didn't really need that as much because like we could just communicate. But now as we're growing, and hiring new people, it's going to be challenging for me to do that for every single person.
Indeed.
Excellent. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Yeah, it's, I don't know. It's always, I've always been of the like opinion, like the philosophies, especially the stuff that you've explained. It's like that feels real to me, right? That's real. I can relate to that. It doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel fake, I guess maybe is the word I'm looking for. Like it's not that at all. Like like hearing people be able to say like, yeah, sometimes it feels like imposter syndrome, and sometimes because it's like, I don't know, people can you get caught sometimes really in this thing where you listen to everybody else talk and you think like, wow, I know nothing. Like everybody seems to just have everything, their head on straight, and everybody seems to like just have it there. Like they seem to know what everything's going on and everywhere, but it's not always that way. And I think like being able, like you said, that the whole being able to be agile and being able to, I don't want to say like shift on the fly, but there's just something to be said about, having that as part of the philosophy that, if you don't do that, it's very, very obvious. Do you know what I mean? It starts to become, so no, I really do appreciate, especially coming on and talking to us about this. And yeah, it does mean a lot. It really does.
Another piece of advice, actually, that Ramesh gave me this. I met him, luckily I had some time with him, like last inbound.
Yeah.
And I asked him, like, here's the situation in your company. And he's, I've kind of met him every single inbound, had the opportunity to ask some questions. I told him, like, here's where I want to take the company because, my business partner is no longer with me. And so we've kind of parted ways. So who do I check with to know where to go? Like, I had to convince my board of certain things, but they have input too. So how would I know who's right? And he's like, well, nobody knows in terms of market and sales and product market fit. Nobody really knows. I thought somebody would have some answer or some kind of better answer than me, but nobody actually knows. And he said that clearly. He's like, they wouldn't know, and so you have to just take the information you have and do the best you can with it. And create the strategy necessary. So
and having a good foundation allows you to make those steps. Like you have something to actually have some traction against, and you can pivot and move and whatnot. If you don't have a solid foundation, a code, so to speak, you are anchorless. I guess you're you don't know where to go. Also, when you said that, it made me think. It's not just good for your team, it's good for you, because when you put things on paper and start thinking things through, you're actually challenging your own ideas to an extent and making it more real and more defined. So kudos to you for all that.
Yeah, thanks. No, the putting down on paper is the next step.
All right, get on it. You have 1 week, and I expect a report.
We'll be checking in with you. And all right.
Your marketplace listings are on the line if we don't get
exactly.
assignment.
We'll call it a bug, but something might, no. But no, we're running up on time, but I did want to thank you for coming on and talking with us, because again, this was fantastic. And for those, I'm going to put the website up here. For those that haven't visited, who haven't checked it out, please go check it out. The philosophies that you have and the approaches that you've taken and just the way you've gotten to where you are it's just one of those things that people, they should hear this. I believe they should, because really we've been lucky. Let me put it this way. We've been lucky. We've talked with, 20 something people already, and everybody's story, it's very impactful. And this continues that trend. But for every one of those that we talk to, that like yourself, that have this really good problem solving philosophy, that really you want to do good. You want to solve problems for the customer. You want to do best for the company and your employees. There's probably hundreds that are either not doing that or struggling to do that just don't know how. And to be able to speak, to people like yourself, Parag, it's just, I think it's instrumental for not just us. I mean, me and Dennis get the benefit of it regardless, but everybody that listens and everybody that watches gets to take a little piece of that back with them and be able to try to implement those same type of things. I think that's priceless. And I just want to thank you for coming on, because it's truly amazing.
Thank you. Seriously.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and if anybody wants to, ask any questions or need advice like that, whatever I can provide on I can. So I'm on HubSpot Developer Slack as well. So
Excellent.
put me there. If you're stuck with anything, just let me know.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you for being a part of that community as well, because that's another piece of the puzzle there where it's like people give their time and they don't expect anything in return, but it's just like that kind of community, and to have voices like yours as a part of that as well just makes it that much better. So thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I said thanks for the opportunity. It's been great. Dennis, I've known for a long time, and AJ as well, and I've met them through the community, the community. So always good to see you guys at Inbound, and need to see you more often than that. So
I know, right? Seriously.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for coming on, and hopefully catch us. We try to do it weekly, right? So you'll catch us in the next episode. But until then, big thanks to everybody that helps put this together, and a big thanks to guests like Parag who make this absolutely worth doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much.
Take care.